What's up everyone, welcome to your 7th After Effects tutorial, and in this tutorial it's going to be real quick. I just want to teach you guys about something called scale. And what this does is make your objects grow and shrink. So if you were watching my last tutorial, I show you guys how to make your objects fade in and out. So let's go ahead, and any keyframes that are in your opacity, let's just go ahead and get rid of them. Just highlight them and press delete. And to get out of opacity, just highlight your object, whatever object you're working on, and press S. This will change it from whatever it was to scale. Again, that's S for scale. Highlight your object, press S. From here, we want to go press home on your keyboard. This will bring you to the first frame in your animation. And go ahead and click this stopwatch to make sure that there's a box around it. Once there's a box around it, as you know if you've been watching my last tutorials, now we can begin editing the keyframes. If there's not a box around it and you try to edit keyframes, it won't work. So click it, make sure there's a box around it. The first thing that we're gonna go over is these numbers right here. This is your X scale right here. X means how wide your object is, and the Y means how tall your object is. So if you want to make it grow one way or another, you have to edit one of these. But what I'm going to keep mine on is this little chain right here means that your aspect ratio is locked. That means whenever you're editing scale, whenever you edit one of these, the other one changes with it, so your object is always proportional. If you have this unlocked, then whenever you change one of these numbers, your object is only going to grow width or height. It's not going to grow proportional like to scale. So make sure, if you want your object to grow proportional and just don't want it to grow taller or wider, then make sure this chain is locked. So since we're on our very first keyframe, the first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to shrink Sammy, since we're going to be wanting him to grow. So go ahead and click on any of these values, and I'm going to change it to 10. And as you can see, Sammy shrunk to 10%, and also the Y value shrunk with it. This is because, as I was talking about, the aspect ratio is locked. The next thing I'm going to want to do is move my current time indicator to about 3 seconds. Now, I'm going to tell After Effects, alright, at the very beginning I want them to be 10%, but at 3 seconds I'm going to change this value. I'm going to want them to be let's go 60%. Now as you can see, Sammy grew to 60%. Again, 10 at the beginning, 60 at the end. So let's go to the beginning again. Let's go ahead and press space and watch what Sammy does. As you can see, he gradually grows from 10 to 60%. And that is how you edit scale in After Effects. So again, go to the keyframe, change the value of scale. And another way that you can change the value, let me work on this keyframe. Another way that you can change the value is, again, scrub these values, click and drag to the left or right. And as you can see, Sammy is now shrinking and growing. So let's scrub this value down to 10. Make another keyframe at the beginning. Scrub it all the way up to about 100. And one last time, let's see what Sammy can do. Press space, grow, shrink. One more time, grow, shrink. Sammy the Sausage, ladies and gentlemen. So that is how you change scale in After Effects. I hope you guys learned it. Pay attention to how you scrub the values in scale. And once you learn everything I cover in this tutorial, then you're ready to move on to the next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up guys, welcome to my 8th tutorial in After Effects, and in this tutorial we're going to be going over rotation. So the first thing we need is an object, and instead of Sammy the Sausage we've been using in the last tutorial, I'm gonna go with a new file I made. This guy right here, this is Charlie the Chupacabra, and we're gonna be teaching him how to rotate today. Now when I'm working with these images, don't get upset that your images may not be as advanced or professional looking as mine, because I've been working with Photoshop for many years, so that's why my images look awesome. So now that we have Charlie in the middle of the screen, let's go ahead and shrink him a bit, and just put him right in the middle of the screen. And as you can see, he automatically pops up in our composition panel. Go ahead and select the layer Charlie, or whatever you named your object, and press R. R is going to bring up rotation, and once you have this brought up, you can go ahead and click your stopwatch. This is going to let you edit keyframes. So rotation is a lot like any other animating type, where you can scrub your values and have keyframes. So let's go ahead and do that right now. The first keyframe we're going to set to 0 because we don't want them rotating yet. And let's go ahead and move this to about 3 seconds, and let's go ahead and scrub our rotation to about 250 degrees. Now, as you can see, there are two values right here. The first value is how many times you want them to do a 360 degree spin. And the second one is like fine tuning. Alright, so you want them to do 0, 250 degrees. If you want them to do 3 spins, then you could edit this little number right here to make it go 3. So this would pretty much be like 3 and 75%. But I just want them to do a basic spin right now. So, and another thing, if you scrubbed it all the way past 360 degrees, you notice that the little how many times automatically adjusted past that. So take note of that. So right now we have Charlie rotating a full 360 degrees plus an additional 70 degrees. So let's go ahead back to home and see how that looks. And there you have a basic rotation. And again, if you want to change the number of times he rotates, let's make him spin a bunch right here. Let's have him spin 19 times with an additional 70 degrees. Move that back. Actually, I forgot I had that keyframe. Have him spin about 17 times. And let's watch him spin. Ah, Chupacabra, Charlie! And there you have it. So another thing that I wanted to go over, let me delete this keyframe, is there are two different ways you can spin. You can spin on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. And to bring those up, let me move back to my home keyframe. To bring those up, you need to click this little checkbox under your square. What this square is it lets you open up 3D rotation to rotate on all axes, or axes, whatever they're called. And just by watching this, the best way to explain what the x-axis is and what the y and z-axis is just to watch my animation. The x-axis, as you can see, that'll spin it on the x-axis. Now the x-axis is actually the one going left or right, so when it spins on the x-axis, it actually looks like it's flipping up and down. So anytime you want to turn your object up or down, you need to spin it on the y, or the x-axis. Now the y-axis is the axis that goes up and down. So whenever we rotate that, you can see it looks like it's spinning either left or right. And the z-axis, this is what one we edited the last time. This is just going to make it spin like in circles. So anytime you want to spin that, just scrub it to the right. And anytime you want to spin it in the opposite direction, just scrub it to the left. So, and you edit all of these axes just like any other, or just like the basic Z rotation. Just make your keyframes and have it rotate over time. So that, my friends, is how you rotate objects in After Effects. Again, if you want to rotate on different axes or axes than the z-axis, then make sure your little cube is checked, and that's how you bring that up. And also make sure your stopwatch is checked if you want to animate keyframes. So once you learn how to rotate objects and also 3D rotation, you're ready to move on to my next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. What's up everyone, welcome to my 9th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you how to adjust the speeds and velocities of your keyframes on a motion path. So the first thing we want to do is make a motion path using the position hotkey P. So I'm going to take Charlie and move him down to the bottom left and make his first keyframe there. Then about halfway through the animation he's going to go up, and at the end he's going to end in the bottom right hand corner. Now what I want you guys to take note of, and I'm going to tell you first, is the speed of your animation is controlled by these little dots. Those are called frames. What your animation does is hop from one of these dots to another until it gets to a keyframe. So if they're evenly spaced out, then our object is going to move at a constant speed. The closer they are together, the faster our object moves, or the slower our object moves. The more they're spaced out, the faster our object moves. So this is good. By default they're evenly spaced out, but sometimes we want to have it look like it's accelerating or decelerating to make it look more realistic. As you can see right now, if he goes, it kind of looks like he's just sprinting out and then he's going hitting a brick wall, and it's not very realistic. To make this a little more realistic, we should have him start out kind of slow, then get faster, and then as he's stopping, kind of slow down a bit. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. Let's go to our last keyframe and make sure it's selected. If it's yellow, it's selected. Go up to Animation, go to Keyframe Assistant, and go to Easy Ease. The hotkey for this is F9. And once you hit that, you can see that your keyframe, instead of a little diamond, it turned into a little curvy yellow, kind of looks like an hourglass kind of thing. And another thing to take note of is that these dots are no longer evenly spaced out. These are kind of farther apart, meaning that our object's going to go faster, and at the end, the tighter together they are, our object's going to kind of slow down at the end. It looks like he's coming to a nice stop. So let's go ahead and I'll show you guys what it looks like. As you can see, if you pay careful attention, he's just coming to a nice stop at the end. So again, you can either highlight a keyframe and press F9. I can't press F9 though, because my screen recorder will stop and do some crazy stuff if I press F9. But and if not, Animation, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. And this will make all the frames around that keyframe ease in or ease out. Now if you want to get rid of this, just hold down Control on your keyboard, or what is it, Command I believe it's on a Mac, and just click. And again, if you want to get rid of it, hold down Control and click with your mouse, and these will put it back to the default what's it called, the same speed throughout. So if you want to, so that's pretty much how you ease in and ease out using a position path. And in my next tutorial I'm going to be going over how to do this in very advanced. We learn how to just apply a default ease in and ease out, but if you want to give it a custom ease in and ease out, then I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do that using the graph editor in the next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching. Learn how to do ease in and ease out, and once you learn that, you can move on to my next tutorial. So I'll see you then. What's up guys, welcome to your 18th After Effects tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys some of the properties of your mask and how to animate them. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is drag out any clip into your composition panel. I used a robot clip from last time. And the next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and make a mask. It doesn't matter what shape it is or nothing like that. So go ahead and make sure your movie clip is selected, the layer, and go ahead and make any kind of mask you want. I'm just going to make a basic star mask for the purpose of this tutorial. And the features of your mask are listed under Mask 1. This little arrow that's pointing to the right, if you click it, you can see all of your mask features on this, and this is what we're going to be learning today. So again, click that little arrow and it will display all the features. The first one is the mask feather. And what the mask feather does is feather out the pixels on the edges of your mask. And to do that, all you need to do is scrub the values to the left or right. This first value right here is on the x-axis and the second one's on the y-axis. That's left and right and up and down. And again, when you do this, it feathers out the pixels both on the inside of the line and on the outside, on either side. So remember that when you're making a mask. And if you want to unlock these two little things, you just have to press that little lock, and now your proportions, you can edit either the x-axis feathering and the y-axis feathering independently. But for most of the time, I like to keep them locked. And that's pretty much what that does. Just feather out and kind of give your nice mask a fading in and fading out. So let's set that back to 0 and forget about that for now. The next thing is mask opacity, and this is pretty much, well, I can't explain it any better than that. It's the opacity of the mask, or how transparent it is. Now this is pretty much just like the opacity we covered before in the transform. Right here, opacity. It works in the exact same way, but the difference is this only applies to your individual mask, and this applies to your whole robot layer. So anytime you have just one mask on your layer, then you're going to want to do it with the overall opacity right here. But anytime you have multiple masks, you can edit them individually. And again, the presets for that for 0, and it means totally opaque or solid. And 0 means totally see-through. So that's mask opacity, and that's how you use that. And the mask expansion is also the mask contraction. What this does is allow you to either take the original shape of your mask and either shrink it by making it a negative value, or expand it by making it any value greater than 0. So that's pretty much the basics of that. You don't really have to know anything extra about that. But those are the three. Oh, in this mask path right here, that is just if you double click this, that's just where it is on your thing. Don't touch that ever, because there's easier ways to do that we learned in last tutorial. So we'll actually be using this whenever we want to move the mask around the screen, but for now, don't worry about that. So those are pretty much the basics of your mask properties. They're pretty much self-explanatory. You just need to know how to get to them and how to work with them. So play around with those a little bit, and once you do, you'll be an expert on that. So again, thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. What's up, everyone, and welcome to my 17th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a mask. Now, what a mask is pretty much, it covers up some of your video, so you only see a specific part of it. And this is how like people make like fake UFO videos and videos of them jumping over a car when they're really only jumping in front of a green screen or something like that. So I'm not gonna show you guys how to do that stuff. I'm gonna show you guys the basics behind it. The first thing that we're gonna want to do is go ahead and drag out a movie clip to our composition panel, and I'll just put that right there. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can make a mask, but the easiest way is to open your entire composition in your layers panel. So go ahead, and to do this, double click your composition name right here, and now you want to expand your layers panel for here until you can see the word render, that little checkbox right here. Now what this is going to allow you to do, this layers panel, is going to allow you to make a mask of this layer. So to do that, there are a bunch of different things you can use, like the pen tool. I'm just going to make a basic, let's use an ellipse. So go ahead and start and drag your ellipse. Now, as you can see, the first problem with this, whenever we're going to want to work with this, it's going to be kind of hard to make a mask when we can't really see the entire area we're working with. So if you like it this way with black in the background, then don't do anything. But if you want to see the total area you're working with, go ahead and click render, and this will show you everything you're working with. Now real quick, as you can see in our final composition panel, it masked only what's in between the yellow circle. And again, what it does, just like mask, it shows you only the parts that you want to see and blocks out the other parts. So now, again, if we played our movie, the entire scene is blocking out the parts we don't want to see and only showing the parts we do want to see. So those are the basics of our mask, but now I want to teach you guys how to edit the mask. Now again, you edit it with mostly the selection tool, but if you just start editing it, you're going to get to know if you want to try to move this mask around, it's going to be kind of hard. You don't use this is your anchor point, and anytime you try to drag it on the side, it's just going to move one of these little nubs. So what you have to do if you want to move this mask around is you need to highlight the mask layer, mask 1, and hold down Control and press T. This is gonna give you a free transform box around your mask. Again, that's hold down Control on your keyboard and press T. And this is gonna allow you to move the mask around your scene, and it's also gonna allow you to shrink and also rotate your mask. So again, anytime you want to use that, Control T, and anytime you want to get out of it, just double click and you'll get out of it. So now you can see in our final composition, we now have a sideways egg-shaped mask. Let me go ahead and click this and play it for you guys. And again, as we touched on before, anytime you want to edit one of these specific nodes, just double click anywhere on your I don't know what's called pasteboard, and hold down one of these nodes and you can edit those individually. So if you want to make a bean shape mask or a banana shape, or actually I don't even want to say what that shape looks like, but if you want to make this shape, just hold down one of the nodes, and again, if you want to do free transform, hold down Control and press T. Control T. There you go. So those are the basics of working with a mask and how to block out some of your scenery. And this is how people take one portion of a scene and combine it with another portion, even though they're not on the same camera or anything like that. So that is how you make a mask. Those are the basics, and those are basic editing tools. But in the next tutorial, we're going to be going over more on mask, and it's going to help you out a lot. So get comfortable with the basics of masking a scene and the basics of the free transform tool. And once you learn that, you're ready to move on to the next tutorial. So see you then. Thanks. What's up everyone, welcome to your 16th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys about something called blending modes. Now what a blending mode does is pretty much take whatever scene that you're working on and it blends it with any of the layers under it. So it might be kind of hard to understand, so I'm just going to show you guys what I'm talking about. Right here we have the I believe this is the, let me see. Alright, this is the robot scene, since he's doing the robot. And what I'm going to want to do is blend this with another layer under it. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do is drag out another scene called Panorama. And let me just move this so you can see both layers at the same time. Now I want to get my robot scene on top, so I'm going to want to grab it and just drag it right on top like that. Now whenever you apply a blending mode, it's going to blend it with any layer under it. So if you applied any blending mode to this scene, since it's the first layer, it's not going to do anything. You need to have layers under it for it to work. So go ahead and select your scene that's on top. And to see all the blending modes, you can do this a couple of ways. The first thing you can do is press F4 on your keyboard, and as you see, as you press F4, this little mode bar toggles on and off. You can also right click and press columns and modes. This will also bring it up without getting rid of anything else. So now that we have our modes, and remember you want to work with the topmost layer, anything you apply to the bottommost won't show up at all. You can apply a bunch of different modes. If you click that little arrow, you can see all of the modes on here. Instead of just going through these all of these effects, I'm just gonna show you guys what a couple of them do. Actually, the best way is just to test them all out for yourself. And as you can see, I chose the multiply mode for this one. And what this does is kind of blends these two layers together. And each of these different modes brings out different effects. Like darken brings out the darkened pixels, lighting brings out the lighter pixels, overlay, these are the ones who blends it together. These are the ones who really give you some nice contrast as hard mix and vivid light and classic difference and stuff like that. So as you can see, whenever we apply a blending mode, the portion of the layer that's over the top layer blends with the bottom layers, and it gives you a really cool effect. Let me show you guys. This is classic. I'll show you guys color. This gives it a new color. And another neat thing that you can do is you can, let me go ahead and get rid of the panorama. You can also apply solids under these. And how you get a solid, I already have one right here, but if you want a solid color, all you have to do is go layer, let me deselect that, layer, new, solid. And this is going to allow you to get a solid color of video. And if you're saying, alright, why is that useful? I'll show you. I got a red solid I already made right here. And let me just put this behind by dragging this robot scene on top. And now you can see that our layer is on top with red underneath. And the cool effect that we can apply to this is hard mix. So let me go ahead and apply hard mix. And if you see, if you watch the video, it now gives you a cool effect just by using a solid color. So again, that's one way that you can use a solid color to create some cool video effects. It doesn't always have to be two different scenes. You can also use this with scenes, solid colors, text, anything like that. So again, what you're going to want to mostly do is just experiment with all of these. I could go through each of them all telling you what they do, but that'll take forever and it'll get boring. So just experiment, have fun, and once you experiment with those and you feel comfortable with using blending modes, you're ready to move on to my next tutorial. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up, guys? Welcome to my 15th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be going over a couple tools. The first tool I want to go over is something called the slip tool. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but I got a whole bunch of new clips that I'm going to be working with. These are just clips, just random clips. You can use any short movies or anything. Let me just start out with this one. Just my friend reading a ticket or something. And what the slip tool does is take your clip right here, which is this whole little blue bar is my movie, and it allows you to adjust in and out points. And if you don't know what that means, I'm going to show you what it means. Say you edited your clip so it's in your timeline just how you like it. Now, as you can see, whenever we edit our clip, we After Effects shows you, even though it's not showing the movie, it shows you the ends of the clips just so you can see how long it is. So what the slip tool does is allow you to keep your clip in the same location but move the time. So say you edited this clip, you already put a bunch of keyframes in, but you're like, alright, instead of my friend reading this ticket right now, I want him to be talking right now. So all you have to do is, instead of moving all this around like this, what you have to do is go hover over the light part, and remember, The dark parts are the parts that are showing. Whenever it's in the light part, it's a blank. Hover over a light part and slide it, and as you can see, the in and the out points are changing. And although your clip doesn't change position, you're allowed to change the time and therefore the scene of the clip. So this is a very useful tool whenever you got everything laid out and all your keyframes situated, but then you go back and you're like, alright, I got everything just how it is, but I just want to change this a little bit. So there's one useful way to use a slip tool. Another thing that you can do, let me go ahead and fix this. Another thing that you can do is split layers. Now this is pretty much exactly like it sounds. Say you got one layer, but you want to split it in two. So see, my friend's reading a ticket right now, and now he's talking. Move your current time indicator right in between those places, and then you want to go up to edit, and then after you want to go to split, wherever that is. Here it is. Edit split layer. And now, as you can see, you got two different layers that you can work with. You got your layer where he's reading the ticket that you can apply keyframes to or animate however you want, and then you got a whole different another layer where he's talking. So this is how you can animate the same scene, split it up so you're not messing with the other part. This is going to come in use a lot later. And the last tool the last two tools I want to go over you guys with is the overlay and ripple tool. And these pretty much kind of act just like they sound. Say you got, this is actually we made these two dance clips, and say we wanted to add a clip right in between them. To do this, we would need a tool called the ripple tool. So go ahead and get a scene. This is an entirely new scene, and down here on the bottom right, these are the overlay and ripple tool. The overlay is the little arrow that's overlaying the gray thing, and the ripple tool is a little ripple tool. Well, that makes no sense, but you know what I mean. What the ripple tool does is pretty much take this scene and squeeze it in between your two clips wherever the current time indicator is. So as you can see, if I press this, now we have this first dance clip. The ripple tool squeezed this movie in between, and then we have our last dance clip. So instead of what was touching here and here, we now have this new robot scene in between. And what overlay does is a lot different than that. It pretty much says, alright, wherever your current time indicator is, that's where I'm going to start. I don't care what's below me. I'm going to lay my movie right on top of it. So as you can see, this doesn't try to squeeze in between or anything. It just pretty much lays on top and takes justice over any scenes that were below it. So again, the ripple tool squeezes it in and doesn't mess with any of your other clips. The overlay pretty much is like a blanket and lays the new clip on top of your old ones, so that new scene is the only one you're going to get to see. So the best way that you can actually learn these tools, is just work with them for like 5 seconds each, and once you do, you'll get the hang of it. So if I sound like a little confusing, it is confusing trying to explain them, but work with them, and after you work with them for like 3 seconds, then you'll pretty much be an expert on them all. So that's all the boring stuff we had to learn for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I promise it'll be more exciting. So thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. What's up everyone, welcome to your 14th After Effects tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be going over a couple rotation things, and we're going to be using a tool called the Wiggler in this tutorial. So let's just go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want to show you guys is how we used to make things rotate along a path before and how they do it by default. So let's go ahead and get your object, it doesn't matter what it is, and get your position effect out, and go ahead and make 3. Well, actually you don't have to make anything, I'll just show you how it's done. just make 3 keyframes, and I'll show you that by default After Effects has this object kind of the same level left and right when it moves along a path. But sometimes you don't want to do this, and you want the object to kind of follow the path like it's kind of going like a roller coaster. And here's how you do that. Anytime you want your object to follow one or more keyframes, and this is called Auto-Orientation, go ahead and select the keyframes you want, and again, if you click the property, it selects all the keyframes. Next thing from there, you want to go to Layer, up here, Transform, Auto-Orient, and you want to put Orient Along Path. Go ahead and click OK. And as you can see, when you do that, your object is oriented along the path which it aligns with, or whatever it's called. So that is how you get an object to go along the path. So if you're animating something like a roller coaster or something like that, it's a lot easier. And make sure when you're done with that, go to Layer, where is it, Transform, Auto Orient, and click Off, or else it's gonna stick with you and it's gonna be annoying when you're trying to orient other stuff. Another thing that I want to show you guys how to do is something called the Wiggler. And what this does is it pretty much just wiggles your objects. Pretty simple. So to open this, you need to go to Window and make sure your panel called the Wiggler is open. Make sure there's a checkbox next to it. Mine's already open right here, so I don't have to worry about anything. What the Wiggler does is adds a bunch of random keyframes in the middle of whatever keyframes you selected, so that it gives it a wiggle effect. And you can do this to any property, not only position, but position is most easy to see. So go ahead and select 2 or more keyframes, since you can't wiggle only one keyframe. I'm gonna go ahead, actually I'm gonna delete this middle one. And right now you see Charlie Chupacabra is just going from left and right. I'm gonna want to add a bunch of random keyframes to make them shake all over like a crackhead or something. So go ahead and select your keyframes. Oops, I accidentally deleted one. So select all your keyframes and go over to the Wiggler, and here is what you need to select. You want to pick Apply to Spatial Path. Now spatial and temporal are actually 2 different things. Spatial means in space and temporal means in time. And since position is of course space, temporal would be something like opacity, where it isn't like moving anywhere, it's just doing something over time, getting brighter or getting dimmer. So that's what temporal would mean. But for position, you always want spatial. Noise type, this doesn't really matter in this case. It's just when you look at your chart, the lines are either going to be jagged or smooth. It's not really important, don't worry about that. And dimensions, again, since this is spatial, these are the axes, x-axis, y-axis. Do you want to do all the same? Most of the time you want to click all independently, since you want all your keyframes to act independently. The frequency is how often it's going to insert keyframes, and the magnitude is how severe, I guess you could say, the differences is going to be. So let's just go ahead and say we want about 11 keyframes per second, and we want it pretty harsh, just so I can show you guys. So now when I hit Apply, you see that the Wiggler added all these random keyframes in our animation. Now if we see Charlie and we play his animation, he's gonna wiggle all over the place. Again, if we wanna only add a couple and not make it, this would probably be better. And this is with a frequency of 4 per second and a magnitude of 18. As you can see, Charlie only wiggles a little bit. So that's how you can get objects to wiggle in and out. And a lot of people don't know this, and even if they've been working with After Effects for a while, but you can actually wiggle other stuff besides position. Now I know whenever you think of wiggle in your head, you think of like an object wiggling, but you can actually wiggle stuff like opacity and things like that too. For instance, let me go ahead and get rid of our other wiggle keyframes on position. If you go to opacity, just make 2 quick keyframes, and let's put them at 50% each. Put this at 50 and put that one at 50. You can actually select both of these and wiggle these just like you would anything else. And what this does is it doesn't really make your object wiggle like up and down. When you wiggle opacity, it's going to make it flicker on and off like a light bulb burning out or something. So let's go to home, apply it, and as you can see, it added a bunch of wiggle keyframes to our thing. Now press space, and I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but if you do this, you can see that Charlie's he's like flickering on and off. So let me play it one more time for you. And if it isn't good and you can't see it, I'll prove it to you right here. You can always look on the graph right here and see your wiggles in a graphic kind of way. So this is the opacity right here. As you can see, it's kind of shooting up and down all over the place. So anytime that you want to randomize it even more, you can go to your graph right here and you can manually adjust it. But most of the time you just want to stick with the basics, because this wiggler gives you enough control where you can customize it how you want it. So again, that is how you use the wiggler in auto-orientation to orient objects along a path. And don't forget that you can wiggle stuff besides position. Any of your attributes you can wiggle. So keep that in mind and play around with the wiggler a little bit and learn how to use it. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 13th After Effects tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a motion sketch. Now, what a motion sketch is actually a path that you draw by hand that you want your object to follow. And the benefits of doing this over what we learned before is it gives you a lot more control and lets you be a lot more detailed with your object's animation. So to do this, I'm just going to show you guys how to do it rather than talking about it. Go ahead and go up to Window and click Motion Sketch right here. If it's already have a checkbox next to it, then you don't click it. Make sure you have your Motion Sketch panel open. Then go ahead and find your panel wherever open and make sure your presets are at 100, 1, and wireframe. Now, once you click Start Capture, your mouse is going to turn into a little crosshair. This means that you're ready to animate and start drawing your motion sketch. So go ahead and click Start Capture, click on your object, and start drawing your motion sketch. As you can see, you now have made a bunch of keyframes that you want your object to follow. So go ahead and click spacebar, and as you can see, Charlie the Chupacabra is following my motion sketch that I just made. Now, as you can see, this is a lot easier way if you want to have a detailed motion sketch that you can make it, and it's a lot easier than making all these keyframes one by one. But the first thing you probably notice is like the massive amount of keyframes on this line. Now, while this gives you a lot of control, it is very hard to animate. If you wanted to animate one of these keyframes, it's going to be a pain in the butt. So to get rid of these keyframes, there are 2 different ways that you can make a smoother path. So let's go ahead, and the first way that I want to show you is actually is by opening something called the smoother. So go up to the window, go down to this tool called the smoother, and once you have your path selected, go ahead and raise this tolerance depending on how many keyframes you want. The higher the tolerance, the less keyframes you're going to have, and the easier your path's going to be able to work with. So raise your tolerance and click apply, and as you can see, all those keyframes turn into just a couple keyframes. So that's one way of using the smoother to give you less keyframes, and also on your motion sketch. Another way that you can do that is, let me go ahead and make a whole new one. Another way that you can do that is actually by changing the smoothing before you make your sketch at all. Now be careful when you do this, because when you do it this way you can't go back and change it. You have to change it the other way. So once you're sure that you want to change the smoothing before, you can change it, and then you can make a whole new motion path. Now you see in this time it has about only 1% of the keyframes that it did last time. So again, this motion path would be clearly a lot easier to move around if we decided to change something. So that is how you make a motion sketch, and it gives you a lot more control than if you were just to make keyframes one by one, and it's a lot quicker. So make sure you learn how to use a motion sketch. Make sure you know how to use the smoother to make less keyframes and easier editing. And once you learn all that, you can move on to my next tutorial. So thanks for watching. What's up guys, welcome to your 12th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you how to hold keyframes and also how to even out your animation path really easily. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do is teach you guys how to hold keyframes. Now what holding a keyframe means is this. If you go to our animation and watch, you see that Charlie the Chupacabra is going to go along this motion path in a nice smooth manner, just like that. But sometimes you're going to want them to jump from one keyframe to another, and this is called holding a keyframe. It holds the object at one keyframe until it gets to that point in time where it reaches the other keyframe, and then it makes them jump to that keyframe. So go ahead and select whatever keyframe you want to hold. I'm going to go ahead and select the first one, since I'm going to want to hold them on the first one. Once you have the first keyframe or any keyframe selected, go up to Animation, go down to Toggle Hold Keyframe. And as you can see, this dotted line now changed to a straight line. And when we play our animation, it's going to hold Charlie here until he gets to this point in time, and then it's going to jump him to the next keyframe. So let's watch it in action. As you can see, Charlie stayed at the first keyframe until it was time to go to the second keyframe, which it held him there. Now remember, whatever keyframe you hold, it's going to hold him there until it gets to the next keyframe. So if you're going to hold your last keyframe, it's not going to do anything. It's going to be worthless. So another easy way that you can do this is hold down the Control Alt tab. It's a Control Alt and click your keyframes. This is a really easy way that you can toggle them on and off. So let me just play you guys that real quick, show you guys what that means. As you can see, he automatically jumps from one keyframe to the other while keeping his other animation properties. So let's change that back to normal, and I want to show you guys the next thing I wanted to go over today, and that's called roving keyframes, or what I call it, evening out the speed of your animation. Now once you have a huge motion path, you can see that it can be a pain that all of these speeds are different. For example, this one goes slower and this one goes real fast. Now I could try to adjust those by hand in the graphical editor, but there's a lot easier way to do this. First we need to open up our graphical editor so we can see what's going on, and now we can see the speed of Charlie. First he's going kind of slow, and then he's going kind of fast. Now if we have a huge path, then it can be kind of a pain to even all these out, so here's a shortcut. Go ahead and make sure that your position is selected, and once you click this, it'll select all your keyframes. Then you want to go down to the triangle right here, and you want to click Rove Across Time. Now before I click this, take note of how close these dots are and how far away these dots are right here. When you click a Rove Across Time, you can see all your dots are evened out, and now when we play our animation, Charlie goes at a nice constant speed throughout the whole animation. Just what we wanted. And again, you can see it graphically here that instead of two different speeds in your graph, you now have one constant speed. And this is very useful when you have a huge motion graph with a bunch of keyframes. Then you can just press this little triangle, press Rove across time, and this will make your animation remain a constant speed. So if you tried anything else before, I just wanted to show you guys that. It's a lot easier way. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. What's up guys, welcome to your 11th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to be learning how to edit multiple properties on the same screen. Now in the last tutorial we learned how to use the graph editor to edit one of these values, such as rotation, or if we had something like position, we could edit that one too. But the only problem with this is when we want to try to coordinate two or more properties, it's kind of hard to toggle back and forth and see what one we can edit and what one we can't. So to do that, here's what we need to do. If you want to get more than one value on the graph at the same time, then you need to right click and you need to click Show Animated Properties. This is going to show all of your properties that you animated, and this is going to let you coordinate one or more animations on the same screen. Now After Effects automatically color codes them so that you can tell right here in your composition panel and right here in your graph editor what each line means. Now there's one problem with this. A lot of the time you're gonna have properties that have a huge range. For example, you might have a position chain that's only like 100 pixels or something, and you might have a rotation that's like 6,000. So one line is going to be like only like this on your screen that you can barely even tell what it is, and the other line is going to be way shooting off the graph, and your scale is going to go from like 0 to 2,000. So one way that you can isolate some of these lines, or actually the way that you should do it, is if you only want to work with a couple properties at a time and not show all of them, you need to go down to this little eye and make sure that everything is selected except Show Animation Properties. Once you click that, you're going to be able to choose what animation properties you want to see, and you do that by using this little button right here. When you click one of these buttons, it shows you it can isolate just what properties you want. If the box is selected, it means include this on the graph editor. As you can see, we now have rotation selected, and we now have only rotation on the graph editor. If we select position too, then we have rotation and position. And of course, if we deselect rotation, then we only have position. So this is pretty helpful if you're working with a bunch of different properties that you animated, but they have a wide range of values. If you only want to coordinate 2 of them or 3 of them, then you can get rid of the other ones, get them out of the way, and concentrate on the ones you're working on. So this is a very useful tool when you're trying to coordinate images or animations. So let's go ahead and just do that right now. Since we wanted to coordinate this animation, let's make Charlie rotate at his we'll make sure we change his rotation when it gets the peak of his positioning. So go ahead and move this position over to the middle of this. This is the change in position, and as you can see, this is a lot easier than trying to move your keyframes in your non-graphical editor mode. And another thing I want to do is bring down his positioning, his rotation, as he's approaching the end. So as you can see now, Charlie, if you watch him, he's rotating, and at the top he's going to change his rotation. So that's a useful way. And again, if we want to apply easy ease, select the keyframes and do them one by one, ease in and ease out. And now, as you can see, this is a very useful way to coordinate our animations. Very useful tool when trying to coordinate keyframes, and if you want to achieve the desired effect, then you can do it by doing this. So learn how to use the graph and edit multiple animations at the same time. And as you can see, it's a lot easier way to coordinate your animations among keyframes. So thank you guys for watching, study this tutorial, and I hope to see you next time. What's up everyone, welcome to my 10th After Effects tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use the graph editor to edit the keyframe velocity. So go ahead and keep our position path just like this, and what we're going to want to do next is make a new rotation. So again, highlight your layer and click R for rotation. Now make sure that you can edit keyframes, and I'm just gonna make 3 keyframes real quick. One in the middle. I'll make this one, you can do anything. I'll make my 326 degrees, that's pretty random. And I'll make my next one, actually I'll make this one 268. Sounds like good numbers to me. So now after you're done doing this, click home to go back to your beginning. And to adjust the keyframe velocity of this, we want to work with something called the graph editor. Now your graph editor is right here, so click that, and as you can see, your little keyframes converted into a nice graph. These yellow squares right here represent your keyframes. Now this is a visual tool that you can look and see just how much your object is rotating. From left to right on the x-axis, left to right represents time, and on your y-axis these numbers represent the degrees in which your object rotates. So in about 1 second our object is going to rotate 300 degrees. That's what it's telling you right now. And again, if you want to adjust these, just grab a hold of them and either move them up, which is going to increase the rotation, down, which is going to decrease the rotation, left, which is going to make it rotate faster, and or right, that's going to make it rotate slower. So I'm going to leave mine to rotate about 200 degrees in about 1 second. So once you learn how you can move those, this will give you a certain control over your rotation. And again, if you want to hover over a line, a little box is going to pop up that show you in that point in time what the rotation of your object is going to be. So after 20 frames, Charlie is going to be rotated 135 degrees. Now to give you even more control over your rotation, just like we did in the last tutorial, we learned how to ease in and ease out, but we didn't exactly learn how to edit that manually. To do that, we need to use this little button, and this is the Easy Ease button. Go ahead and click that, and now you can visually see your object ease in and ease out. In the last tutorial, when we just clicked the button, we were kind of stuck with the defaults, and in this tutorial we can edit the ease in and ease out using these handles. These handles, just like using them on your motion path, the greater you drag them, the more I don't know how I call it, severe or something, that your thing is going to ease in or ease out. As you can see, it's going to start out rotating real fast, then at the end it's going to kind of level off and rotate kind of slow. So enough talking, let me show you guys what this means. As you can see, Charlie starts out going real fast, and then he eases down. And this is represented again in our motion path. The more dramatic the slope, the more dramatic he's going to rotate, and the more even the slope, the less he's going to rotate. So right here in about 10 frames he rotated about 250 degrees, and then the next 10 frames he only rotated about 20 degrees. So again, that's how you can use your handles and your Easy Ease button to manually control the rotation and ease of your keyframes. And again, if you want to toggle that off, just click this little button right here. This is the graph editor. And if you want to get rid of it completely, again, hold down Control and click the button, and those will bring you back to the normal keyframes. So that is how you use handles and the graph editor to edit keyframe velocity. It probably doesn't sound too useful, but trust me, in the future it's going to help you out a ton. So study that, play around with the graph editor a little bit and the easy ease functions, and once you learn all this you can move on to my next tutorial. So I'll see you then. Thanks.